Years ago, H. Jackson Brown Jr. wrote a small book called Life's Little Instruction Book. Inside, there was a short section titled A Father's Instructions for Life. It's simple, very old school, no fluff. Things like never cheat, live beneath your means, admit your mistakes, be brave even if you're not. And when we read it, it didn't feel like advice for kids. It felt like a measuring stick for us. Because before we can hand our kids a code to live by, we have to ask, are we actually living one? Are we building character in our homes, or are we just reacting day to day and hoping it works out? Today, well, and it's funny because I'm like, man, I really wish I had this on my screen. I should have pulled, but it is what it is. Today, we're not talking about what our kids should be doing. We're asking what we should be modeling. All right. So Tuesday of this week, a employee, a coworker of mine gave me this. I read it and it was pretty powerful. So I sent it to all my boys specifically and then sent it to Dimitri. And we decided we'd kind of dig into it and see how we're
measuring up.
Yeah, measuring up. That's a good way to put it. I mean, it's what I just said too, but.
All right, well, I'll just say it a different way. Arising to the standards.
Arising?
Arise.
Or rising?
Arising. Is there a big difference? Arising? I guess arising is from the ground. Rising is you can rise from anywhere.
Rising is coming from the ground?
I would assume so. A rising.
I have no idea.
I love how this is now like a
dictionary
fucking episode.
I don't know the definition, so usually don't use the word.
No, the part of me right now is tempted to look it up, but that's not why we're here.
Fair enough. All right, so you want me to read through these real quick, and then we'll just kind of break them down by category?
I would say let's go through them as we go.
Are they all on here?
They are all on here.
All right, sick.
So I would say let's start with character over comfort. You want to read the ones under there?
Yep. Never cheat. Admit your mistakes. Don't gossip. Be willing to lose a battle to win the war. And that's it.
I'd say there's one more. Are we raising tough kids or honorable kids? Well, I guess that's just a question for it. Are we raising tough kids or honorable kids? What do you think? And you think there's a big difference between them? Because I think both of them have to have certain aspects of both.
I think for me, I'm trying to raise honorable kids, but I think I'm also trying to teach them how to be a little gritty.
So yesterday, me and my daughter got into an argument, and she got pretty upset. And usually, this is kind of how I go through with my kids, and I know some people don't go through this in the way that I do. Your kids usually say, give me a minute. I'm not one to give minutes. I'm one to say, no, let's get through it, because after the minute's over, it comes to apologies, and apologies never lead to anything. I don't think there's anything beneficial that comes after it. We get to it, and she starts saying, I don't feel, she's like, I feel like everyone's stronger than me. She's like, I feel like I can't talk about my feelings and what's going on, and because it impacts me a lot. And to answer that question, we're raising tough kids or honorable kids. I think that sometimes I personally might get a little bit mixed up, or what our kids see is us being kind of really strong on the exterior without realizing how difficult it is. And for me to be an honorable parent, I think it's really important to give your kids the truth and how you want them to be, and not sugarcoat things and be very gentle and sweet. I think there's times for that. But I think through honor, you have to be tough. You have to be disciplined and able to make those difficult decisions for yourself. Because I think all of these things take a lot of resilience. never cheating, admitting your mistakes, not gossiping, which is probably easy to do, especially if you're surrounded by, in school and other students. For kids, that's easy. Being willing to lose a battle to win the war, that's a difficult one for me.
I was going to say, do we take our own advice when it comes to that?
I think overall, never cheat, right? I don't believe that I tell my kids, hey, cheating's okay. It's the opposite. If you cheat, I'm going to make you redo it the right way. If you cheat and it caused somebody to lose, then you go and apologize and you make it right. But how about you? Because we can run through them one by one.
Yeah. As far as cheating goes, it's a hard no for me, and it's not something that I feel like I've ever done to where my kids have seen me do it. And if they've been in a situation where they've done it, there's been some accountability that's been given to them, whether that's owning up to it or I guess more so just learning from it.
Okay. How about admitting your mistakes?
So that one's an interesting one for me. So probably about 5 years ago, I read, it may even been closer to 7 years ago. Geez. I read Extreme Ownership, which is the Jocko Willink and Leif Babin book. And I took a lot of stuff out of that book. But honestly, my biggest takeaway was if my employees fail, I fail. So even if they mess up, it was my mistake because I didn't communicate clear expectations. But my biggest takeaway from it also transferred to parenting. And so I feel like I've learned to, if my kids cheat, it's not immediately like, hey, you fucking idiot, you cheated. It's more like, I'm really sorry that I did not explain to you how important it is not to cheat. But
Gotcha.
moving forward, this is on you now.
Yeah. Okay.
So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think admitting our mistakes is definitely I think it's easier said than done because I only say this when you're in a moment, because when you're in a moment and things are heated or whatever the case is and you're trying to present a certain point, it's funny because I think I'm pretty good at admitting my mistakes, especially to my kids. And I only say this because my kids are very quick to say, hey, dad, that's actually wrong. And I think that's more so my daughter. She's like my little accountability person. She's very quick to say, no, dad, that's not how we do it. She's like, well, you're doing this, but you're actually telling me to do that. And I don't think that's right. So I think admitting your mistakes is incredibly important because you want your kids to grow up being able to admit theirs, because that's the only way that you kind of get away from the ego and start to, drive your life personally. Uh, don't gossip.
I will say this. I think that sometimes I'm not good at admitting my mistakes in the heat of the moment. But once I step back from the situation and I think I'm really good at putting myself in somebody else's shoes. And then that's when I'm like, man, what were you thinking, Patrick, by saying that? So then I will come clean being like, hey, that's on me. I didn't there may be situations that happen that I still don't agree with, but maybe my reaction was I went to level 10 immediately, and that's where I got to own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I beat my kids.
He does not beat his kids.
Just kidding.
I think it's really easy to go to that level. And I think as you parent, the older you get, you're practically 50.
Jesus
You're old as
Christ.
fuck, dude. So I mean, you're probably going to level 10 like what? Once in a blue moon? Yeah, it's probably a lot more rare for you than my age and then people younger than me. I think the older you get, you're able to be a little bit more kind of stoic in your responses and less so instantaneous and kind of like abrupt.
I appreciate you sharing that I have wisdom because I'm almost 50.
It's true. I mean, maybe that you're not almost 50, but I think you definitely have some wisdom. And I think through all the years of parenting and, a lot of the stuff that you went through, I think your wisdom comes out to your kids. And your oldest kids might be confused because you're like, where was this when I was younger? Well, might have not might not have been there for you in the way that you see it now, but it was always there. It was just hidden behind, like an instant reactions. So
Right.
your
Right.
younger kids now get to, benefit from, unfortunately, what we bestowed upon our older ones.
Well, I think I just managed stress poorly at a younger age. And the older I've gotten, I've learned to manage stress better. If I'm stressed out, then I'm naturally like on edge a little bit more. And I've tried not to let my stress, I've actually tried to be more present with my children, and not think of this things that are stressing me out. Which is probably why I'm not sleeping.
Yeah, probably.
Stop barking. I won't
And then
bark
the
at you.
stress comes out at night because that's when you're able to sit with yourself,
Yeah, because then I'm thinking of it then.
all right. Well, let's don't gossip.
That's a weird one for me. I will say for the most part, I'm not a big gossiper, but I was just gossiping with you prior to starting the call.
Which is kind of funny that it's on here.
But I don't know, man. It's more of like,
How do you communicate that to your kids? I think there's a difference between, having a conversation where you feel free to speak your mind and then being deliberately negative about somebody and having your kids see it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, I'm just kind of trying to like run through scenarios in my head. I would say it's probably not something I've instilled in my kids. It's not necessarily something that I would say that I do often, but on occasion it happens. But yeah, it's not something I've ever said, "Hey, don't gossip."
I think gossip is like another word for talking shit. And I
Yes.
will say I tell my kids that don't talk shit. Like don't don't say bad things about other people just because like you're upset, you're frustrated with them. You don't know what's going on. And if that's just how they are, then distance yourself from those individuals if you can.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I don't know, it was probably like 4 months ago, 5 months ago, I shared a situation that happened with Jackson at his school.
Mhm.
And I think that situation, I was teaching him not to gossip, but if you gossip, you're not teaching him not to gossip.
Yep. Yeah, lead
So it's
by
probably something I need to be better at.
well, yeah, and I think this one actually ties into the next point, be willing to lose a battle to win the war. We how do we win the wars by leading by example and understand that there's gonna be some points that our kids are somehow in their own little way wiser than we are because they're present in the moment in that age. I talked to my daughter that when I was her age, I thought to myself, so you know what? I'm gonna be the greatest dad. I'm always gonna be cool. I'm never gonna sit there and be frustrated with my kids over little things, especially things that I know they might not be able to control. And then here we are as adults, and sometimes life gets the better of you and you kind of forget to where you were as a child. Well, I think in order to win the war of fatherhood, you have to be able to lose those little battles where it's your ego getting in the way and, they leave a cup or something out and you might be a little frustrated and you say, well, why is the cup out? Why is this out? And why is this not done? In reality, we're missing all the wonderful things that they've already done throughout the day. And we're just nitpicking the negative things. And I think that makes us lose and it makes them feel like shit.
Yeah, I think that August has taught me this a little more than probably any of my other kids. Um, And what I mean by that is there are a lot of situations that 10 year ago probably would not. I would have said something. Now I try to bite my tongue a little bit if it's not that important because I don't want to. Not that I want him to win, but ultimately, like you just said, I don't want to ruin his day over not eating all of his food or something along those lines. So I think he's made me better, a little bit better at this.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we don't want trivial things to get in the way of the lessons we're trying to teach our kids. And back to you being older, I think the older you get, we do tend to let those little things go because in a grand scheme of things, they're only going to be kids for a short amount of time. And sometimes they're just being kids.
Right.
What are you going to do? You're going to ruin their childhood because they fucking threw glitter everywhere. This happened yesterday. No.
Nice.
No, you're just going to clean it up and be happy that they enjoyed that moment. So I guess back to that question, are we raising tough or honorable kids? What do you think, Patrick?
I think I'm trying to raise honorable kids. I
That's
want my
fair.
kids to have some grit, but I'm not the parent that says if some dude talks shit to you, punch him in the mouth, walk away. It's not
Yep.
worth it. Like, we live in a much different world than you and I grew up in. And I wouldn't say my mom raised me that way, but that was kind of I think that was kind of the general idea. If somebody talks shit to you, punch them in the mouth.
Yeah. I mean, mine wasn't. It was more so like if somebody hits you. Actually, I don't think my mom wanted me to do any of them. So I just hit people. I was
Right.
like, you're laughing at me. I don't know. I should probably hit
I don't
you.
know what's going on. I'm just
Yeah, I
going to
don't know.
punch
It's going. I feel like Ricky Bobby in front of a fucking job interview, except instead of just holding my hands up, I start punching things. Um, all right. How about this? Let's. I think this will be a good one because I think you have a lot of. I think you have a lot to add, and you're going to be a little bit more beneficial here. Let's talk financial wisdom and self control. About live beneath your means. How do we how do we feel about this lesson?
I think it's an amazing lesson that I have never done a great job. I'll add on that a little bit. We brought this term up the other day, but I am not a keeping up with the Joneses type of person. I don't need to have a new car every 2 years. The last car I drove was a 2004. um, so in those situations, I would say I have taught my kids that kind of stuff. Where I've struggled a little bit, and there's a method to the madness. Is any opportunity I've had to have extra money, I've invested it. But there's been times where it's been a little bit of a financial burden.
The
So,
investment to be consistent with it.
correct. Like, if I've had extra money, I've invested it in houses, businesses, crypto, stock market. And then if I get into a financial situation, I have to make a decision to use a credit card, withdraw my investments, which is something that I'm playing the long game, so I try not to
Yeah.
do. Or um well, I mean, I guess that's it. So it's put me in credit card debt on a couple separate occasions.
I think for the most part, I've taught my kids this that the older you get, your means change. Um, when you're a kid, you get a paycheck, you want to spend the whole paycheck. You don't want to worry about anything else. You're like, that's cool. I don't have any other responsibilities that I need to deal with. As an adult, you get your paycheck and you have to think about your bills and everything that comes with them. Now, this is the first time in our lives that we've had two incomes with my wife working. So the ability to live beneath our means is substantially easier. And I think that allows us to have a little bit more freedom. Teaching our kids how to manage their money substantially better than we did. The thing is the real value there, and they do need to. We do need to model that. Hey, if you have $100, you can't spend your $100. Maybe you could spend 20 or $30 of it and put the rest in towards the things that truly matter to you, because that's how you're going to get ahead. To an extent, other people say, no, no, no. You just take it all and just throw it at investments and throw it at this, and that, which I don't think is a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I've shared with you earlier this week, but I had a situation with Davis because he's really close to graduating and being out on his own, and sometimes the way he manages money is not what I've taught him.
Well, I think they have to, it's almost like you have to burn in the fire before you can stand up again. And I think with kids, we don't really realize the lessons that we've instilled them until they get older. Because I think he's 18.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still in a sense of like impulse. And I think you get out of impulse a bit more like by your 20s. And then you start getting into like, oh, wow, look at all this money I've wasted. I should probably change it.
For what it's worth, Logan was the same way, and I was really concerned about Logan, and he's proven to not he's proven to not be that way.
Yep.
He's got bills. He's got some bills and stuff he has to pay now. He made a decision to stay off campus this year, and that was a pretty big financial burden, but it was super important to him. And then that's kind of what I told him. It's like, I can't pay for it, so you better figure it out.
Yeah.
And he's figured it out.
Yeah. Good on him. But you kind of mentioned on this, use credit cards for convenience and not credit.
Yes. So I really, really believe in this. However, I've had two separate situations in my life where, the first one was when I was in my 20s. I very poorly managed my money and gotten really, really, really bad credit card debt to the point where I even had to file bankruptcy just because I couldn't get out. Now I'm in a pretty bad credit card debt situation that I'm currently digging out of, that I hope to be out of pretty soon. But it was just a bad situation that happened.
What this situation I would assume is probably a bit different than when you're younger. You
Yeah,
actually,
100%.
so as you had a reason to use your credit cards now because I see. I guess I kind of look at credit cards as emergencies. Yeah, I don't treat them like that. I carry balances on almost all of our cards, and the goal is to try to get rid of a majority of them, or at least the bigger balances. Because the worst thing about credit cards is if you can't pay them off in full, now you're getting hit with interest, and that stuff starts adding up because you really have to make those big old payments.
Right.
And I think as a kid, you might look at it as like, oh, it's not a big deal. As you get older, you realize this is kind of a big deal. I don't have this money. This is more so if I actually need it, I can use it.
Yeah, and
And I think
that's
there's
good.
so I think there's right ways to use because some credit cards have like points for gas and you get statement credits. I think learning how to use your credit cards responsibly is the right way to do it.
Yeah, the two credit cards that I had for about 4 years were literally my Amazon Prime one, which I got rewards for, and Southwest, which I got points for to fly. And they were specifically being used for the points. So I'd use them in the month and then I'd pay them off the next month. And I just did that over and over again for about 4 years. And then I got into a bad situation. And for what it's worth, I don't think I could have uninvested my money. There's some exceptions, but I don't think I could have really uninvested my money to help me get out of it. So that was the decision I made.
I think I don't think you want to uninvest your money.
Well, you have to weigh the two. Are you paying more interest than you're making off of your investment?
Yeah.
Potentially, almost always, yes. So you really should think about on investing, getting it paid off, and then reinvesting. But getting out of my houses was like it wasn't even an option.
All right. Well, yeah, you can't be getting out of your houses.
Right.
So let's kind of bring these together. So model discipline over impulse and teach delayed gratification through action. I think these are huge, especially delayed gratification through action.
Yeah, I mean that's investing.
The longer you can delay that benefit to you, the more beneficial it's going to be to you, not only like in the physical, but also like mentally. I think being able to drive off those impulses, because I think they go hand in hand, you know. How do you model discipline over impulse? Well, you're teaching delayed gratification through actions. If you're investing your money, not pulling it out just because the impulsivity of, "Hey, I really need this money right now." Like if you can juggle those things and weigh them out and see what's going to give you more benefit, like you said, you're going to benefit in it at a later point. And I think you learn that as you get older, right?
For sure. Yeah, I did not know. I did not know that stuff when I was in my early teens. I mean, early teens, late teens, early 20s. I did not invest in my 401k when I first started working here. And I'm still kicking myself for it.
I think we don't learn. So the one thing I'm realizing is that we as parents, the things that we're going to teach our kids and we're going to be really, really hard on are the things that we found true value in as adults. And they're typically going to be things that we didn't get taught while we were that age. So being able to, in a sense, model the fathers that we wish we had or the parents that we wish we had with our actions, we're able to give our kids a better childhood and a better adulthood, or at least getting into it. We're giving them a head start. And my kids, if you have something to do, you get it done now. Why? Because me personally, I have a hard time doing it. It's a lot easier to have your kids. It's a lot easier to tell somebody, "Hey, if you don't have anything to do, that's a lie. You always have stuff to do and you should just get it done." And my son told me the other day, he says, "Dad, well, you always tell me that if there's something I don't want to do, I should definitely be doing it." I'm like, "You know what? Yeah, you're fucking right."
Right.
But it's really easy to hand it out, and it's sometimes difficult to bring it back into yourself.
For sure.
All right. You want to lead us into the next one?
Yep. Presence, leadership, and faith. Pray for wisdom and courage. Learn to listen. Never take action when you're angry. Enter a room with purpose and confidence.
All right. Well, so I'll say this: for pray for wisdom and courage. We pray every night. We do a good night prayer. Um, just because I think the idea of prayer is really good because you're trying to extend something that's beyond yourself, and it's not. And I think it's can be wrong because some people may use that as kind of like a scapegoat, and they're like, "Oh, well, I can just blame it on this reason that this is why it's not happening." But I think prayer is pretty important, at least for us. I met you.
I haven't prayed since I was like 10.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not like the faith one in this, it was just really hard for me to relate to. It's just never been my jam, so to
that's
speak.
fair.
Um, Do I think that there's benefit in it? Sure. I just personally have never been a real believer in organized religion. And if my kids wanted to be, I'm totally okay with it and I'd support it, but it's just never been my thing.
All right, that's fair. How about learn to listen?
So from a leadership quality, I think this is a extremely powerful one, and it's probably one that it's been one of my better tools as a leader. I think I'm pretty good at it with my kids as well. When I'm having a conversation with them, if I'll give a good example. Me and specifically my younger kids, we communicate a lot when we'll just run to the store, right? So we're driving and I usually don't listen to radio. I'll have a conversation with my kids. That's a really good time for me to just kind of see like what's going on, because in a house as busy and as chaotic as ours is, sometimes getting that one-on-one time is just not always easy. So I think I'm pretty good at listening, and I also think my kids are good at listening.
I think I want to add on to it and say teaching your kids how to listen properly is important, because you can listen to the words, but I think a lot of people listen to respond, as well as if you're frustrated and you're having to listen, I think people listen with judgment instead of just being able to hear what's coming out of somebody's mouth and taking it in. I think that's kind of how I look at it. Like, everyone can listen. You know, you could put on something in your headphones or you could listen to somebody speak and you can hear the words coming out of their mouth, but it's kind of what you're getting out of that listening. I think it just kind of shows how adept you are at it.
Right, right.
This is an important one. Never take action when you're angry.
That I actually have an example I can share real quick, but that is one, as I've gotten older, I've learned not to do better at. I wouldn't say I'm perfect, but to do better at. So the example I have, about a month and a half ago, I had a situation happen at the sober house. We ended up finding out the guy was using, so it actually made way more sense. But we were on the phone with him trying to get through a situation. It was me and my business partner and him. My business partner got so frustrated that he ended up hanging up on him. And the dude talked for about 6 minutes straight before he even realized that he had hung up, even though he said he was hanging up. So the end goal was to get the guy out of the house. We were going to give him some time because it wasn't physical. He wasn't like physically harming anybody. It was just, he was rubbing everybody the wrong way. I made a comment to him about he needs to take some accountability and revisit the situation again. And he goes off on me and he started calling me a motherfucker and all sorts of other shit. I got angry and I told him that tonight is his last night in the house, which was, hindsight, was a terrible decision. What I did almost do, which I'm really glad that I didn't because I don't know what the outcome would have been, I almost drove over to the house that night. Instead, I reached out to the house manager and said, hey, here's the situation. He kind of knew what was going on anyways, because the dude was on the phone and he was screaming and all sorts of other shit. If it escalates, call me, and then if I need to get the cops involved, I will. I ended up having to go to the house at 3:30 in the morning because the dude was still causing a huge ruckus. But I think if I would have just hung up the phone and went over there, it would have probably been physical. Yeah, it would have got physical. Because I was so pissed off when I got off the phone with him. Because I was like, he was so irrational, and it didn't register to me that he had been using at the time, but that's what ended up happening. He was using, and so his behaviors were they were freaking ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Well, you're I'm sure you weren't just angry at the way that he was speaking to you, but also how he was impacting, your house of all these individuals that are trying to, be in a sobriety living home, and they're kind of being punched in the face, quote unquote, by some dude screaming and yelling at him while he's high on drugs. That makes their life a lot more difficult.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that was me and my business partner had talked prior to even getting on the phone with him. And we're like, the dude's bad for the culture. He's fucking up the culture. And he had been in there for 60 days. And he was definitely a strange dude, but like it wasn't to the point where we're gonna just be like, hey, you gotta get out. It was the last week lead up, which my guess is probably after his last random UA, he started
Yeah.
using, and then he was he was getting in rubs with everybody. So, which, if he would have just came up hot on a drug test, it would have taken care of itself anyways. But anyways,
I feel like that makes it difficult for you, what you guys do.
what's that?
You kind of get like you get stuck between, okay, do we tell this person, hey, we're done, because you're in like a helpful position, right? But there's only, I guess there's, to an extent, only so much that you can do, and only so much that you can provide to help somebody without them being self accountable to what they need to get done. So
100%.
I guess I'd be curious, for those 60 days, how many of those days was he actually using? And if he just started using randomly, what was the cause? I'd be curious about that.
He lost his job.
So he was in a stressful position. So what did he do? He kind of resorted to comfort. And I
Yep.
guess it's really difficult to be disciplined with addiction.
Yeah, it took him like 40 days to get a job, and then it took him 10 days to lose his job. And so he was worried about being able to pay his rent and all this other stuff. And I was working with him through it. Like, we weren't
Yeah.
getting ready to kick him out or anything like that. He just made a decision. But he also had purchased a lot of shit, which made me think that he was up to something, or because he wasn't paying for his rent.
Yikes.
So anyways, that's obviously a whole other story, but that was a situation where I think that in my 20s I would have went over there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, I go over there, I get into an altercation with him, something bad happens, I get arrested, I risk losing the business. Like, there was no good outcome.
Yeah.
Where in my 20s, my ego would have said, this dude called me a motherfucker, and now
Let's go.
he's gonna find out. I'm gonna
Yeah.
learn today.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it impacts your kids too. That's
100%. Well, especially what if I got arrested?
exactly. Because then now it's everything else kind of gets put behind, because now your kids see it. And whether your kids see, okay, well, dad stuck up for himself, or dad let something get the best of him, are two different ways that they're going to be able to model their life going forward.
Right.
How about enter a room with purpose and confidence?
Um,
I find
that's
it
an
important.
interesting one. What'd you say?
I find it really important. I think being able to hold your head up high when you're walking into somewhere, even if you feel lost or uncertain, is going to show you. It's going to show other people that even in an intimidating setting, you're still able to have your wits about you, and at least be confident in yourself, or have the perception of being confident, or I guess be perceived to be confident. And I think perceived confidence sometimes is going to get you through more than you would think.
Yeah, at work, I enter rooms with purpose and confidence. In situations where I'm comfortable, I would do it. If I'm not comfortable, I definitely don't do it. So
Well,
it's an interesting one for me to maybe start doing.
yeah, because I think this is speaking about, obviously when you're confident in what you're doing, you're gonna walk in and you're gonna have a sense of like an aura around you that's gonna say, you know what, this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows exactly what we need to do, and we need to listen to him. But I think for our kids, okay, they're gonna have a whole lot of new experiences in life. So how do we tell them, hey, first time you ever get into a job, here's how you behave, here's how you act. And if there's something wrong, you don't like it, speak up. You know, I told my son the other day, I said, listen, as you get older, it gets a lot more difficult to speak up at your workplace. And the reason is when you're a kid, you might not have as much responsibilities, and there's not going to be a severe negative outcome. You might lose your job. Well, as an adult, not only do you have your job, but you also have lots of bills. You have kids to take care of. You have friends, mortgages. You have a lot more financial responsibilities that you need to be certain that you take care of. And I think as a kid, you're able to speak and say, hey, I don't like this. This isn't right. So either we need to fix this or I'm going to find something else. And I said, you need to be able to do that. If you don't appreciate the way somebody's speaking to you, use this time to train and say, I don't appreciate it. So can we change the way that we're speaking? I have a very, very difficult time because I have a lot of responsibilities. And for me to go up to somebody and say, hey, listen, I don't like the way that you're talking right now. So you should really close your mouth. You know, there's a lot more of a severe outcome and it's going to instantly affect my family.
Right. Right.
So I think that, you know, it's very important to be able to speak up and be confident in what you're doing and have that purpose. Showing your
Dogs.
boho. I said she's showing you her boho.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Dimitri. Like I said, for me at work, I have that. For me in public, like just going into a random place, it's typically don't have that. I'm
You
usually
might.
uncomfortable. No.
Well, no, say you might be uncomfortable, but it's you as an individual. So I think it's more it's like the perception of people looking at you. How do your kids see you when you walk into a store and you need something? Like I know it sounds silly. Like how do your kids react when you go and you have to get if you don't change your own oil and you go and have interactions with people? Do they see confidence within your voice or they see kind of insecurity? I think teaching your kids that perceived confidence again, they're going to value and they see it in you more than you realize. They probably see more confidence in you than you think you see in yourself.
Yeah, I get to your point. If I'm going into a store or something like that, I'm probably walking in a little bit differently. When I interact with people, I'd say 90% of the time, there's probably a lot of confidence there. It's if I'm doing something that I don't want to do, if that makes sense.
Sure.
A good example would be Wednesday. There was the parent meeting for volleyball. I didn't want to be there. I didn't know any of the parents. So I probably walked in there a little bit more timid and a little bit different. I went to it last year, so I kind of knew what to expect. And nothing was really different, but I don't know these people. And so it was just different. It was different. But anyways, what else we got?
Do our kids feel safe in our presence? What do you think?
I would say yes.
I would agree.
All right. We got one last one.
We've got the legacy turn.
When our kids look back one day, what will they remember? Rules or standards? Did we just manage behavior or did we build character?
We don't want to
We
just
don't want to
correct
just
our
correct
kids.
our kids. We want to equip them.
Yep. Let's tackle that first one. I think this
So
is
when our kids look back one day, what will they remember?
yeah. What will they remember? Will our kids remember us yelling? Will our kids remember us being, weak and undisciplined and afraid to take action? Or are they going to remember us and see the deeper side of the things that we were trying to accomplish? That they were a little bit strict, but here's why they did it, and I really benefit from it. Well, they probably could have been less assholes and a little bit more understanding. I think I want my kids to remember me as somebody that just because it's difficult doesn't mean you walk away. In fact, that means you walk towards it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I will say this too. I think this is something I'm really good at that I hope my kids understand. Like, if they have a situation that is building up between them and another human being,
Yeah.
to address it and to address it from a positive way and not necessarily a negative way, even if it's a negative thing that they need to address, and to put themselves in the other person's shoes.
That's important. I think it's sometimes when our kids say, "Oh, well, I could put myself in their shoes and they have this, and that, and I don't." I think putting yourself in somebody else's shoes is more so seeing the misunderstood aspects of it and
Yes.
saying, "Hey, you're mad at this person, but can you see that potentially your actions made them upset?" I'm not saying entertain people's like victim mentality, but I am saying be very understanding of what other people are going through.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't even have to be like that. That helps too, but you have an interaction with somebody and it's negative. Put yourself in their shoes. Look at how you reacted in the situation.
Yep.
And how would you have taken it if somebody talked to you like that, right? Or if somebody would have done that to you. And you, like I said, you can address it, but you don't have to be like, um, I'm trying to think. Trying to just run through a quick scenario. Um, you don't need to be aggressive in your communication. You can be like, hey, when this happened, it made me feel this. And so that's why I reacted the way that I did. And I'm sorry for that because now I can see why you were even more upset.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good situation or not, but
You react to it in lowercase and not capitalize and cursive. I said react to it in lowercase and not capitalize and in cursive. You
yeah.
know, we don't have to be super loud in our communications to people.
Yep.
There's very clear ways to do it. All right, rules or standards. I think standards are more important, but I think I personally have a lot more rules, and I don't like that about myself.
Yes. I agree with everything you just said. I don't like that about you either.
That's it's true.
I'm just kidding. I think it's the same for me. It's probably more so rules than standards, and it should be standards. Did we just manage
Okay.
behavior or did we build character?
I think that a majority of what we do as parents, and this is a hot take because I think a lot of parents are egotistical and ego driven and are going to say, well, no, we're building character. No, I think the reality of it is that all we're doing is managing behavior. And that's usually because, you know, you're living life and it's stressful and you have things come up and you're not necessarily able to build that character as consistently as you'd like. So I believe that 80% people are just managing behavior. And I think there's that 20% where we have that momentary clarity to say, you know what, we're doing this wrong and we really need to build this character because if we build up that character, they're going to be able to have that managed behavior. They're going to learn how to manage it.
Can I, I don't know where draw my box.
I don't know where they are. Can you ask mommy? I think that 80% of the time people tend to manage behavior. And in that 20% that we realize that we actually need to build the character, because through building up their character, we're going to be able to, their behavior is going to automatically be managed better. You know, if you build your kids to be confident, they're going to be able to say, you know what? I'm not getting in trouble because my dad doesn't love me. I'm not he's not upset with me because I'm a bad kid. He's upset because, hey, I probably should have cleaned that up. So, duh, he's not mad at me. He's mad at the situation. Right. So I think when we build up that character, you build up that internal confidence within him to say, it's not me, it's a situation. So how do we fix a situation? That's my viewpoint on it.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. And I think I do a little bit of both. I think I manage behavior, but I also try to build a little character.
Because it goes down to the last point. We don't just want to correct our kids, we want to equip them. How do you equip your children?
With tools.
Yeah. Your kid says, I have a problem. Okay, fix your problem. I can't fix your problem if I don't know what the problem is. Now, if they tell you what their problem is, well, you need to equip them with the ability to tell you what their problem is. They need to have the confidence to be able to communicate these things to you. Communication is a tool. And like I said, I feel like that's something that's a bit lacking. And in some aspects, it lacks in my own home. I think that, like I said, that 80% of managing the behavior needs to kind of be flip-flopped. We need to have a 20% of building character. 80% building character, sorry.
Yeah, we had I was talking to Logan last night. We were just texting back and forth because we usually jump on a call on Saturdays. But I had a pretty busy day, and so I just didn't get a chance to chat with him. So I was trying to set something up for today. And he's like, I've been sick all week. Like, I haven't been to school and I haven't been to work. And I told him, like, why don't you say something to me? Like, you have insurance and you can go to the doctor and get prescribed medicine, like it sounds like he has the flu. So he's been sick for like 6 days, and I appreciate the fact that he was trying to handle it himself. But to your point, if he would have just reached out and communicated, he could have, I just could have got him the right medicine instead of taking a bunch of over the counter stuff.
Well, probably could have thought that he could have handled it himself. And you know what? He did. It just handled differently than we would have.
Well, Maybe. It just took longer to recover. And
yeah,
I'm not a good example of that. And that's kind of probably why, as you get older, you think differently about things. So in December, I got sick. I was sick for 2 days, and I was really sick for 2 days. So I ended up going to the doctor on the 3rd day. When I was in my 20s, I would have just rode that shit out because essentially I would have been told that, or I was telling myself that I'm not going to die. What are we doing here, guy?
All right, man.
But I ended up having influenza A and I had pneumonia in my lungs. So I'm really glad that I went when I went.
Yeah.
So
I just chug a bottle of cold medicine. It's what I do.
But what if that doesn't work? Or what if it lasts 6 days?
Hold on, 1 second.
Oh, Jesus.
What's up? Okay. I love you. Have a great day. We'll see you later. If that snow starts coming down crazy. All right. Yeah. I don't like getting help when I'm sick. I've been to the hospital more times in the past year than I have in like the past 10 or 15. Like, I don't ever go to the hospital.
The hospital or the doctor?
Both.
Got it.
If I have a problem, I'm like, that's fine. If I don't feel like I'm dying, it's probably fine, which is not the right way to do it.
I'm the same way, dude. I'm the exact same way. But as you get older, like, COVID actually changed a lot of shit for me. Like, it made me think a little bit differently about my health. Like, there was probably a period of 10 plus years where I was a parent that I just didn't care about that shit. And then if something were to happen to me, now my kids don't have a father.
Yeah.
And so, and it wasn't necessarily COVID itself. It was just like people dying made me think a little bit differently. And I got shingles right when COVID started. And so I thought I had COVID. So my natural reaction was like, I was in fucking panic mode. I went to the doctor and it being shingles, but it just changed the way that I think about things a little bit more. If I get sick, I'm going to make sure that it's not that serious.
That's fair. And I wait for it to get serious. And I think that's out of fear. Like, I'll be honest. I don't think it's because of ignorance or trying to like tough it out. I think it's more so it's scary to have to go somewhere and it potentially be something serious. That's where those are the lessons that you kind of have to teach your kids, that no matter if you're scared, you still need to do the right thing. All right, if we had to write our own father's code, what would be on it? Let's name 5 things each.
Okay. Be a good person.
What
Am
else?
I going all 5?
Yeah. Get your 5.
By the way, not all of these were on our list. We should read these.
Okay.
Compliment 3 people each day.
Okay.
Watch a sunrise at least once a year. Overtip breakfast waitresses. Look people in the eye. Say thank you a lot. Say please a lot. Live beneath your means. Buy whatever kids are selling on card tables in their front yard. Treat everyone you meet as you want to be treated. Donate 2 pints of blood every year. Make new friends, but cherish the old ones. Keep secrets. Don't waste time learning the tricks of the trade. Instead, learn the trade. Admit your mistakes. Be brave, even if you're not. Pretend to be. No one can tell the difference. Choose a charity in your community and support it generously with your time and money. Read the Bill of Rights. Use credit cards only for convenience, never for credit. Never cheat. Give yourself a year and read the Bible cover to cover. Learn to listen. Opportunity sometimes knocks very softly. Never deprive someone of hope. It might be all he or she has. Pray not for things, but for wisdom and courage. Never take action when you're angry. Have a good posture. Enter a room with purpose and confidence. Don't discuss business in elevators. You never know who may overhear you. Never pay for work before it's completed. Be willing to lose a battle in order to win the war. Don't gossip. Beware of the person who has nothing to lose. The one that stands out to me that's weird is don't discuss business in elevators. You never know who may overhear you.
That's your most valuable one from there?
No, it's not what I said. Get off your fucking phone.
I'm fucking reading him, dick.
I said it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand that one.
Well, it's elevator or a small space. Don't discuss your ideas surrounded by strangers, because you never know who's gonna say something that is taken maybe out of context.
Oh yeah, like we beat our kids.
Or like we beat our kids, But like I think it might have that same kind of premise where you never discuss something in a very public setting, in a very small space that everyone could be listening. Just kind of have your wits about you.
I think the first 10 stood out the most to me. I'm just using like around the first 10. Compliment 3 people each day. I think that's actually a pretty cool one that I don't do, that I think would be cool. Watch a sunrise at least once a year. Over tip breakfast waitresses. Look people in the eye. Say thank you a lot. Say please a lot. Live beneath your means. Buy whatever kids are selling on card tables in their front yards, and treat everyone you meet as you want to be treated. Like those ones all grabbed me.
So pick 5 from here. Pick 5.
Compliment 3 people each day. Buy whatever kids are selling on card tables in their front yards. Admit your mistakes. Be brave, even if you're not. Pretend to be. No one can tell the difference. That one really stood out to me. What is that, 4?
Yep.
Be willing to lose the battle in order to win the war.
Right on. I'll say compliment 3 people each day. Again, buy whatever kids are selling at card tables in their front yards. Don't waste time learning the trick of the trade. Learn to trade.
That's a good one too.
Be brave even if you're not. Pretend to be. No one can tell the difference. And I do think this one has a lot of value, and I think this is very dependent on the individual, but give yourself a year and read the Bible cover to cover. I think there's, you could take the Bible and turn it into whatever book that you might find that has all the lessons for you. And even if you don't agree with it, understanding that there's things that you disagree with that still have value in life.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. When gentleman who gave this to me he is an 80-year-old man. Him and I just have a really good relationship. We've worked together for a long time. That was the one that I told them that I didn't necessarily agree with, but to your point, maybe I should. Maybe it would change my perspective a little bit on religion.
I mean, religion. Give me 1 second. All right. Welcome back to Dak on this podcast. That was fun.
All right. Well, I'm asking anybody listening, which 5 would you pick? Put them in the comments. Let us know which one stood out to you. If you could say why, that would be awesome too, but that might be a whole.
Well, what we'll do, we'll put them in the comments. We'll put all of them in the comments and allow people to pick their 5.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that works. All right. Are you ready? You want to close this?
I'm ready for the question.
So I'm doing things a little bit different.
Okay.
I have a list of a couple questions I'm going to read through, and it's father related.
Okay.
Should chores come with bonuses? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, I agree. But if they went above and beyond, would you give them a bonus?
No.
Okay. If your kid invoices you for emotional labor, do you pay for it?
No.
I'm also in agreement. Do dads secretly love, do you think money grows on trees?
Yes.
Do you say it?
I have.
I have too.
Yeah.
At what age should a kid understand taxes and disappointment?
2.
Disappointment for 2, but not taxes.
No. Everything at 2.
Taxes as well.
No, I guess honestly 15.
Yeah, so I think 15 to 18 is the range. Davis is currently taking a class for like a financial class. Thank God. And he's learning a lot about he might actually know more about taxes than I do, but I think 15 to 18. Would you let your kid negotiate their bedtime like a contract?
No. And we actually have conversations about this because my daughter doesn't like going to bed at 9 o'clock when our 6-year-old goes to bed as well. But this is more so just a bedtime for the younger ones.
Um, at what age do you let her stay up later?
It depends. It depends on how they are in the mornings. I think the more sleep you get, you should wake up with clear head, not full of attitude. So I think once you're able to kind of do that on a regular basis, then I don't mind it as much. But I think if we're still waking up frustrated from the night before, I think we need a little bit more rest.
Yeah. So to Ellie's point, at one point, both Jackson and Ev had the same bedtime, and then as soon as he became a teenager, I extended his.
Yeah.
Um,
And that makes sense.
and then I think it was, well, for what it's worth, he doesn't really have a bedtime now. He's 14, so 14 in a couple months. So Evelyn still has a bedtime. And then my next question is, do you have different bedtimes on the weekends, or do you keep it the same?
Honestly, it's usually like the same.
The same.
Like, I don't, and I'll say it's only because we have my daughter and our 6-year-old both share a room. So I think it creates, it's very difficult to separate and have different bedtimes because I think it just leads to a lot more problems than solutions.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Makes sense. All right. There's like 3 more. If your kid sells sneakers for profit, are you impressed or suspicious?
Impressed.
Agreed. Do you charge rent at 18?
No,
No.
no.
All right. You want to know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old, both still in school, seniors in high school.
Yep.
We are going to, once they graduate, we're going to charge them rent
Okay.
and keep the money. They will cover food with a little bit of the money, but the rest of it we're just going to sit on until they move out, and then we'll give it back to them.
Oh.
The reason why is, and I told Davis this specifically, and I don't know if Deanna shared it with Raina yet, but I want Davis to pay me $1,800 a month, and I'll keep like $200 of it. The reason why is I want him to understand how to pay his rent on time.
Yeah.
And get used to paying roughly what I think his rent would be once he moves out. It might be between 1,800 and 22, but I thought about just doing like half, but then I was like, man, I don't want him spending all this.
I think that's good.
Yeah, so that's the plan. They're essentially helping with groceries since they're old enough and will have a job, but most of the money's going to go right back to them to help them get their place.
That's good. I like that. I think I'm going to do that.
If your kid wants to be a YouTuber, what's your first reaction?
Go ahead, man. Dude, I'd tell my son, I'll say this. It's almost comical because as my kids gets older, I start to learn this more and more. That saying, everything you can do, I can do better. There's a whole lot of stuff that my son can do. And it's, dude, you just do it better. I was like, he gets very excited, just very good at certain things. And when it comes to like creating content and just being able to like be him, I think he fucking rocks it. If he wants to be a YouTuber, tell him knock it out, man. Get it done. Hell, I had him, if he's got a video that he wants to make, I'm like, dude, go start doing your videos. Like, what are you doing? I'm just laying here on TikTok. I was like, why? Get it done. You're going to do a good job and you feel really good when it's done because there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's different than, manual labor, very, very different. But you do have to put in a lot of like mental hours
Right.
to make something come out and then edit it. So I think it teaches lessons in its own way.
What if Ellie wanted to with her?
No, and she knows that. When she gets, when she gets older, like I think like 13, because I think that's like YouTube's like guidelines too. Like you have to be 13 or older.
Got it.
Like depending on what it is, go right ahead. I look at this. There's going to be one day where we're going to pass away, and my kids and your kids are always going to have a place to go back to and say, hey, do you remember what your grandpa looked like? Or do you remember what your dad did? Or like how he spoke? And this is it. It's like a memorialized memoir of our existence here.
Yeah.
So I think for them, it adds value that's different than having a picture book that you could open.
All right. Here's the last one. I actually think this one's an interesting conversation in itself, but I didn't answer your question. I think at the right age, I do agree with you. I think, like, for me, Evelyn's definitely too young. And Jackson, I think Jackson's been working on some stop motions. I don't know if his plan is to put them on to YouTube or just online at all, or if he just does it for his own personal reasons. Either way, I think it's cool. And if he were to put those on, I would fully support it. All right, last question. Would you fund a food truck dream just like you were funding college?
Yeah. I have a food truck dream.
You worked in a food truck.
I worked on a food truck, but it's also me and my wife always wanted to do a pizza shop together. If I had the money, to buy a food truck with a pizza oven and stuff in it, and yeah, that would 100%.
Okay. I'm talking about
why
kids,
not?
though, right?
I am.
Okay.
Like, why not? If my kids wanted to do something like that, if I had the money to help them out, I would. And if I didn't have the money, but I knew, I don't know, man, it's so hard because the reality of it is, I don't really give a shit. One day, everything that I have is going to be gone and missing. If it's something that is so outright important to my children, I'm going to make it happen. I will figure out a way to make it work because it's important to them. I don't want to say no matter the cost, but honestly, no matter the fucking cost, dude, it doesn't matter. Like, money's not real. We don't give a shit.
All right, I gotta modify this question and see how you answer. All right. Ellie's 18.
Mm-hmm.
She's a terrible cook, but she loves cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants a food truck. How do you handle that?
With honesty.
Well, and I figured you would.
Cook.
But are you going
to a terrible cook
Ellie if she's not a good cook, even though she loves cooking?
You know what? Probably. And the only reason I'll do it is because it goes back to building character. If it fails through that failure, will come a lot of debt. But through that failure will come a lot of lessons learned that not many people will have the ability to learn. And I think there's a lot of value that would come from that failure. And I think there's a lot more value that would come from that success, especially if it's after the failure. So I would still support it.
Okay. I agree with you on everything. If Evelyn was a terrible cook and wanted to do a food truck, I would also be honest, be like, hey, this food's a little rough. So is what I would rather invest in is maybe like cooking lessons for her to learn.
So fucked up.
No, I'm serious. Like if it's something that she's really passionate about, but her food's terrible, like I feel like you're setting your kid up to fail. And I agree with you, like it's going to build some character, but that could be soul crushing too.
Well, you know what? I think I look at this way, if you tell your kids their food's shitty and then they hear from somebody else, it's going to have more of a impact hearing it from somebody else.
For sure.
I also think it's going to create more of a change if it's heard from someone else.
All I'm saying is you're going to go drop $100,000 on her to hear feedback that her food's shitty?
Yeah.
Or would you rather her step up her game and then go invest the $100,000?
Well, you would think that this isn't a, a fever dream where they wake up one day and they say that, hey, I'm going to start a food truck today. If it's like that, then I'm not investing anything. Now, if it's, I've thought this out and they have, plan of action, how they want to handle it, that's when the investment stuff comes.
I agree. All right, cool. Well, good episode.
I agree. Thank you guys for coming along for the journey and watching this episode of Dad Compass Podcast, especially if you've made it thus far. What value did you get from the episode? What kind of lessons do you think that you should be instilling within your children? And are you instilling them? Or are we just creating rules for them to abide by?
Yes. Like, follow, subscribe, comment, and thank you for listening.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week in 2 weeks on a Dad Compass Podcast. See ya.
Compass on.
Compass on.